Welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. Tonight I will be doing my live, but I've just run into some information that I just simply have to comment on. And I apologize if I end up stepping on toes, but I'm going to end up stepping on toes, I'm sure. Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, was responsible for the Phoenix Light UFO incident. Back when, one of the world's most famous cases of mass sighting of UFOs, Dr. Stephen Greer's CE5 protocol is what caused that. I just barely ran into this information from Vetted, who found an old video clip of Stephen Greer taking credit on this. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't have. I'm not mocking him. I'm saying that the problem here is that the claim is untestable. This reminds me very, very much of Jake Barber's team claiming that we can call the UFOs in at any time psionically. If that were the case, and once again, I'm about 2 weeks down the road from my previous video asking Jake Barber, where are all your videos from your team? And we're now 15, 20 days later, and we still don't have even one video since that claim was made, showing that this can happen on a daily basis. And now we have Dr. Stephen Greer. Now, and I say, and now, this was done decades ago, who claimed, yes, I caused the Phoenix Lights. Well, in that case, why have you stopped doing that? Or now are we to believe that every time there is a UFO sighting, it is Stephen Greer with his CE5 protocols causing that? And if his followers can do the CE5, we should be having thousands of legitimate UFO photographs and pictures and videos of this event happening at will all over. We shouldn't even need to have disclosure. Forget the government. Steve Greer can call him in with the CE5 protocol. Forget the government. Jake Barber's team can psionically call him in any day they want. And the impression is every day that they want. Obviously, they don't want to. It must not be that important or a primary goal, because we still don't have any updates from either side now. Let me share the video clip that, and I will clip out several of Vetted's comments because I want to make my own, but I'm very appreciative that Vetted did find this whole. Now, I have not researched Stephen Greer's career. There's too many videos. I just don't have time. Perhaps some of you Greer fans can find where either Greer has backed down from that claim or has doubled down and said, yes, we can, using the CE5 protocol, cause gigantic occurrences of UFOs. I mean, were they responsible for the vast, huge, 2-year-long UFO sightings over Belgium? Was the CE5 protocol used for that, etc.? I honestly don't know. I'm not going to go research it because it's not my priority, because I am sincerely, genuinely skeptical of it all at this point, because again, there's no evidence. There's nothing to hang my hat onto. Come on, you guys, give me something to hang my hat onto.
On March 13th, 1997, residents in Arizona and Nevada reported seeing a large V-shaped object flying through the sky. It's been referred to as the Phoenix Lights, and it looks like we have it solved. According to Dr. Stephen Greer, he is responsible for the Phoenix Lights. First time I've heard this. Now, this is an older clip, but again, this is the first time I've heard this. So let's jump in.
You all have heard of the Phoenix Lights? How many people have heard of that? The thing that, well, most people, in 1997, the Phoenix Lights event happened in Phoenix, all over Arizona, really. And I was there when it happened in March. We were using a digital lab that was actually tied into a covert program, but they were letting me use it.
Okay, so he's at a digital lab that's used in covert programs, and they just let him use it. Okay.
And a picture editor for the BBC was flown in to help me put together this reel of images I've been showing you. And we were doing it to give to members of Congress for the April 1997 briefings in Washington that we were doing for Congress. And so while we're there, while I'm flying in, I'm sitting in my seat, and I'm on a U.S. Airways. I called it U.S. Scareways flight. And U.S. Airways flight, they're now part of American. And we're flying in, and I decided to do the CE5 protocols.
The CE5 protocols is his way of summoning or inviting, as it were, the UFOs to come and show themselves, to possibly communicate with we humans. And so it appears to me like he's saying, while on the flight, I did the CE5 protocol, and voila, that night was the biggest night in all of ufology.
And I was told to ask the ETs. So I asked the ETs to do something while I was there that would be unmistakable, that we could get to put on this reel, this video, to give the members of Congress. That was at 5:30 p.m. At 8:30 p.m., the Phoenix Lights happened as a CE5. It was a CE5. And the epicenter where it was right above the lab where I was.
So Steve Greer is using this digital lab for whatever reason. They're just letting him use this expensive equipment. He's literally a nobody in 1997. He's beginning his career, and they're trying to put together some information for Congress. And he asks the ETs on his flight in, would you please do your thing? And they did, and they got it on video, and then they showed the Congress. This is Greer's claim. Let's keep watching for one more clip, I believe. It's either one or two.
And this general, this guy, a former general who worked for Evergreen Transport, a whole bunch of spooks and cutouts for the CIA, came running in. He says, you wouldn't believe what's going on out there. And I said, oh, yeah, I would. And so it was on the news that night, all over in the Phoenix area. Now, of course, once I shared this, the UFO subculture covered it up because they think, it's all, UFO, it's like the nuts and bolts crowd of UFO.
Okay, so I happen to agree with Patrick on Vetted. A general just comes running in and, oh my gosh, you can't believe what's going on. Color me skeptical, honest. Let's, no, that didn't happen. This is drama being created in order to sell his CE5 protocol to this crowd that he's in front of, apparently. That's the impression I've gotten. And then the other thing is, why would a general come and talk to these guys at all about something like that and be so surprised when by the 1990s, they've been working on this stuff and watching the ETs for 50 years. That's sincerely highly unlikely. I don't buy the story. There's no purchase power here at all that I can tell. I think I've got one more small clip of Greer. Greer has made it his career that there are parts of the UFO community during his career who completely dismiss his CE5. And that has happened. He's right. That's true. The nuts and bolts, the physical aspects of it is what has been predominantly the overarching philosophy of our own materialistic interpretation. So I get why he's saying that. And perhaps we are seeing a distancing and a differentiation now with the nuts and bolts turning perhaps more to the psionic aspects of this with this Jake Barber stuff. So Greer has been pushing the psionic materials from very, very early on. Here's good proof of it, 1997, I believe. So in a way, Steve Greer is ahead of his time. There's no doubt about that. The problem with this is he presents an untestable claim. And there's the catch. Now, we might be able to even track him down and verify succinctly and without any doubt whatsoever he really was there during the Phoenix Lights incident. That still does not verify that it is his power of using the psionic CE5 protocol which caused those UFOs to show up. So, one, that means this is a very unscientific claim. Two, it means it is absolutely unfalsifiable, and therefore it's not a scientific claim at all. It's Steve Greer's word for it against any of the skeptics. This particular setup is what Carl Sagan came out with his famous statement, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. In other words, to reword that, when we make claims, they have to be testable, right? Now, I'm not disparaging Steve Greer. I'm not disparaging Jake Barber. I'm saying the ability for another person or an outside organization or group to be able to say, oh, your CE5 protocol brought in the Phoenix Lights, then let's test it again and bring them back. That's what they should have done with Dr. Stephen Greer. Now, the man is still alive. So this is entirely doable. Why isn't someone doing that with him? Right? I believe the same, and that is not to cast doubt or belittlement on the CE5 protocol. That's not my attempt at all. Let's assume it's entirely valid. But that means we test it. So why isn't this being done? I have said the same thing about the Jake Barber side, which is essentially Steve Greer on steroids, because Barber has an entire team and he apparently has some very, very mouth-watering, delicious equipment to be able to scan the skies and potentially bring the UFOs down to land and then potentially to communicate if there are beings in the craft. I mean, hot dog, that is everything we want. Yes. So where are the tests? Where are the videos? What is everybody waiting for? You notice I am trying my golly gosh darndest best to give the benefit of the doubt to Greer, to Barber, to the psionics teams, etc. I sincerely am. I am not approaching this as a skeptic. I am asking you to step up to the plate and hit the home run. And you're not doing it. And that's a bad look for your team and your claims. I'm just here to help, right? I don't have psionic capabilities. I have not developed that. I'm not so sure I want to. Understand? Yeah, I want the UFOs to be real and onward and upward and so on and so forth. True. However, I don't have a group of like-minded people to help protect me who are martial arts experts and military powerhouses, etc., like these people apparently do. So I'm happy to leave it to you to do that, but you gotta do it. And I don't mean in June or July or August or September or October or, oh, maybe we better put it off to 2026. Well, things happened. We got to wait until 2027. No, just do it right now. Steve Greer, show your CE5 protocol works. Don't just claim it after the fact. You should be able to, if you really believed you caused the Phoenix light, sincerely, in all good faith, my good man, you could be out there every single night or day doing that with full video equipment. No. I mean, come on. That's where this has got to go. So what are you waiting for? You've been at this for 35 years. You're called a grifter. Don't you want to kill that stupid setup? Don't you want to convince people you're the real deal? Well, for Pete's sake, you just gave the key out. You have the key, yet you refuse to do it. That's honestly not a very convincing look. Sincerely.
The whole UFO subculture around nuts and bolts covered it up. So basically now he's implying that the nuts and bolts crowd of the UFO community covered up the fact that Stephen Greer, was the cause of the Phoenix lights, right? Because he asked them to present something undeniable like the Phoenix lights. Why doesn't he just do that all the time and let's film this, and you know what I mean? But this is just so interesting, his sort of reaction to it. But I don't know, y'all. Let's continue.
Because they don't understand interstellar spacecraft are transdimensional, and their craft and everyone on board are wired into this field of unbounded consciousness. So they don't want to hear that there is a way to actually make contact and use these techniques, although they'll admit that the military has remote viewing, but we can't use it. I mean, it's so ridiculous, dysfunctional. So this happened, and it was great because it ended up on the news. We put it on the reel, and we gave it to all these members of Congress. So the Phoenix Lights was an event that was, and I actually saw that event happening that night 3 hours earlier. It'd be interesting to see what a random number generator would have done. By the way, thousands of people saw this. And Dr. Katai, who's a friend of mine, also a medical doctor, filmed it, took pictures of it. And later, a couple hours later, the Air Force put up flares and said it was a National Guard thing. And Fife Symington, the governor of Arizona, did a press conference because there's so many thousands of people who saw it, and had a ridiculous looking aide come out dressed up as an alien and made fun of it. Later, he admitted that he himself had seen it and that he was very wrong to have ridiculed it and covered it up. And we have him on videotape. By the way, Michael, that needs to be in this movie. And so the movie was coming out in 6 or 7 months. Y'all know about that? Ho, boy, it's going to be 1,000 times bigger than Sirius. So that is exactly how you do it. So you take these techniques that you're learning over last night and today and apply it out in your groups or by yourself.
So there it is. And I get it. I understand that he's looking at it with hindsight, saying, oh, by the way, the protocol works that I'm trying to teach you as a group of people. And this CE5 thing really does work because, after all, look at the Phoenix Lights. Yes, my CE5 psionic power caused that. And so you can too. Well, of course, that's the sales hook. Since nothing against the idea in principle that psionics actually does work. This is the crazy thing. It is his claim that it was him using CE5 that caused the Phoenix Light, essentially, for all intents and purposes, an untestable claim that I question. Because he would have never stopped doing that. And he would have made arrangements to have hundreds of cameras and called them in and had them videoed. And again, that is what someone who has that actual capability would want to do, assuming, and I assume, and might be just an assumption, that Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, and Jake Barber really do want to have disclosure. Their actions just don't convince me that they're serious about it. So that leaves a big, nasty question mark in bright red. And so the image of, well, you're wanting to make money off it shows up because you brought up the idea of a movie. You can use these protocols to have Phoenix Lights events. So tell all your friends about it. Come and take the CE5 course from me so that I can pay, so that you can pay me to teach you how to have your own UFO experience, on and on and on. I have to ask in all sincerity now, is it not obvious why, Dr. Greer, you are seen as a grifter? I get that. I wish you people who have the capability would just shut up and start producing the evidence over and over and over and over again all across the United States. I really wish you would, sincerely. But I'm done waiting for you. I am a skeptic, not in the subject of the reality of the UFOs or the UAPs. That's not where my skepticism lies. My skepticism is in the claims of those. It looks to me and so many others that you are putting yourself up on pedestals to be admired and looked up to and almost worshipped, and that doesn't cut the mustard. If that's the image you're after, you're ultimately going to fail. Sincerely. And I do mean in the history books as well as in contemporary society, because those of us who want the reality and don't have the capabilities that some are claiming to possess, you see, that puts us in the subservient position to where we have no choice but to rely upon you, so that if you don't deliver the goods, we will turn against you. I mean, seriously, you've got to be able to understand that, I would hope. If you can't understand that, I'm personally telling you now, that's what's going to happen. So just get ready for the backlash. It's brutal. So anyway, thank you, Patrick Vetted, for sharing this incredible old video clip. I also had never heard of it. I sincerely don't know a lot about Stephen Greer. I'm not going to take my time to learn a lot about Stephen Greer any more than I am going to with Jake Barber, for the simple and obvious reason that you've still given us nothing. And you could be giving us valid quality materials absolutely every single day, and you refuse to. So I'm just not going to wait for you. And no, I'm not going to watch you. And no, I'm really not going to support you. We'll see in the course of the time whether you pull it out or not. I'm skeptical. So, all right. Thanks for watching the Backyard Professor Responds videos. Come back tonight, 6 o'clock Mountain Time in the United States. I will be talking about the remarkable, interesting triangular UFOs. In the meantime, I hope you all have a fantastic Sunday afternoon.